in their franchise's history, you can make a strong argument that on that famed Legion of Boom, he was the very best player with respect to Sherman, with respect to Cam Chancellor, and defensively as a whole, with respect to Bobby Wagner. I think that was the best guy. But this is what he was afraid of. This is the reason why he was saying, and we laughed about it, like, hey, if I have a headache at practice, if I have a hangnail at practice, I'm not practicing. And unfortunately, this can happen. This is the same leg he broke a couple years ago, the same leg he has a rod in. And he will play football again. He'll play for someone else next season. It's obviously, you probably shouldn't flip people off on live television, your coworkers, I get it. But this is an incredibly frustrating moment that he was worried about all year long. And this is how his season ends, on the back of a cart, and the way his career in Seattle ends, on the back of a cart.
I wish we didn't see it. Earl's been a lot classier than that when he's at University of Texas as a high draft pick in the NFL. Now, he's been in this dispute with the team over getting a contract extension, but the truth of the matter is Seattle's the one who drafted him. They're the one who put those other defensive players around him so that he can create the legacy that he has. The Seattle Seahawks has made him rich. Now, I don't know what they did to deserve that, but that's just not the way to go out. Even if he was disgruntled, even if they've had intense discussions off, there was no way to do that, because it's not about Seattle anymore, Earl. That's your brand. It wasn't the Seattle Seahawks. That was Earl Thomas. That wasn't. It's not going to be an indictment on the organization. The coach tried to play it off. It's a big stadium. Bobby Wagner talked after the game saying, you know, it's an emotional game, and sometimes people act emotionally. You have to give them a chance to act emotionally, but this is bad for his brand. All right? Earl, you're bigger than that. Football's been good to you. Seattle's been good to you. All right? Don't get caught up in the business of it. All right, he's upset they didn't sign him to a contract extension. That's part of the business. You ain't the only one that didn't get a contract extension, but you can always, it only takes this much. And the difference between class and ASS, it's a big difference. But that's where Earl was right now, and he didn't know, because that was not a classy move.
And it is a reminder, though, just take the flipping the team off aside, of how quickly all these teams turn over. Forget Seattle's Super Bowl win. The year after the Super Bowl, they lost to New England. You know how many starters next week will be the starters from that game? 5 guys. Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, Doug Baldwin, a couple offensive linemen. That's it. That wasn't a decade ago. That was less than 5 years ago that they played in that game. They have 5 starters left on that from the team that made its second straight Super Bowl and was a yard away from winning that Super Bowl.
I just don't like the fact of guys getting the business mixed up with the logo and the helmet, because he's in love with Seattle, and because Seattle is a football club. All right, and they're going to make football decisions. And a lot of time when these guys don't get the contracts, they take it personal. Concentrate on the business aspect of it, man. It's not personal. None of these organizations love these guys. I tell guys when they come in the locker room all the time, you know the thing we have in common? One day they're going to take your nameplate down, they're going to take that jersey off your back, and someone else is going to be wearing this uniform. 99% of all NFL players need a system. 99% of us get knocked out of the game. Some of us going off on a cart like that. Some of us not, because we don't have a contract. But ultimately, all of us are going out that door, and they're going to replace us. And Earl missed that.
Do you think what happened to Earl Thomas might influence some other guys who were approaching some semblance of a holdout scenario?
Well, I think that people are drawing the conclusion of, is this going to make Le'Veon Bell even more entrenched? Le'Veon is as entrenched as can be, it would appear, absent of this. Now, what did come up last week is the fake trade that I proposed last week on the show, Le'Veon for Earl. It was reported by the NFL Network that Pittsburgh proposed that very trade, and that Seattle, as you talked about, was not interested in doing that. And where it is a bummer is it was also reported yesterday by Terez Paylor that the Kansas City Chiefs were close with a trade with Seattle for Earl Thomas. And so, obviously, none of that's going to happen. No one's going to have Earl Thomas.
I don't believe players are going to follow. So, you know the reason why? Because Earl didn't win. He wasn't right. There's no precedent to, oh, this was very, very successful. No, it didn't work for Earl. It won't work for other players, all right? You signed a contract, all right? You need to abide by that contract and believe that the team, a lot of times you're approaching 30, they're not going to extend you. Everyone's in love with all these extensions. This is just recent that this started happening. But typically, you have to play out that contract.
What I would say people could learn from is, if it is true that Earl took a discount when he signed the initial deal. That speaks to the business side of it is as far as speaking against taking hometown discounts. Like if you are in a position where you have leverage and you are a free agent, exerting every last bit of leverage to get
But also, if you don't take a discount, then maybe you're not playing with Richard Sherman. Maybe you're not playing with Bobby Wagner. Maybe you're not playing with Cam Chancellor. So when you take that hometown discount, realize at the end, there ain't no hometown. All right? Your hometown is actually where you came from. It's not that team. So you got to be careful in trying to negotiate and be able to live with the results.
All right, guys, take a break.
Don't let Nick Wright negotiate.
Coming up, was Baker Mayfield's first loss his fault? That's next on First Things.
Yeah, okay. Give me your list of clients.
Non-quarterbacks or quarterbacks?
Yeah.